Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Maddern.
Good afternoon. First at 4, a woman has been found dead inside a home in Melbourne's north, sparking a murder investigation.
Let's go straight to Rochelle Brown at the scene. Hello, Rochelle. Detectives have a man in custody.
That's right, Beck. Police made that arrest earlier this morning and we're just now hearing some more details about the alleged victim in this case. She was 35 years old and her name was Nikita Azzopardi. Tributes are already flowing in from her family. The family last saw Nikita for a family birthday over the weekend. They came to check on her at her South Morang home around 10 o'clock this morning after she stopped answering phone calls and messages. That's when they discovered her lifeless body and contacted police. 7 News understands she was the victim of a violent stabbing. Detectives arrested her 33-year-old boyfriend on the street shortly after. The homicide squad is now involved. They're working to piece together the moments leading up to this incident.
Anyway, I went upstairs and I went through the door and I just saw my sister murdered and I can't get that image out of my head.
Any scene that we go to where there's a deceased person and takes its toll on the emergency services. In relation to the officers that were upset, then we'll be giving our support to them.
Forensics have already been on scene for several hours, combing through the property. Detectives are expected to remain here until at least midnight this evening, with part of Reed Street still closed off. Now, that 33-year-old man is currently undergoing questioning. Police say he is cooperating. Beck?
Rochelle Brown reporting live. Thank you.
A man has handed himself into police as they investigate a fatal stabbing in Geelong. 20-year-old Jamie Sykes was fatally wounded during a fight in Little Mallop Street early yesterday. 2 Colac men were also injured and went to hospital. A third Colac man, aged 26, attended a police station today and is now being questioned. Jamie Sykes' mother released a statement calling her son her rock and saying he packed a lot into his 20 years. Charges are yet to be laid.
A former soldier accused of shooting at police has been charged by armed crime squad detectives. The 56-year-old allegedly fired a gun towards police at a property in Gippsland last Thursday. He's been charged with multiple offences and remanded in custody to appear before court in January.
Community and sporting groups have been devastated by an overnight blaze that destroyed a community hub in Glen Waverley. Police are now investigating what sparked the inferno, as Rory Campbell reports.
Arson police have finished up their initial examinations of the aftermath of this fire here in Glen Waverley, and now the clean-up job ramps up for those affected by the blaze. An unofficial men's shed type of operation at the rear of the building went up in flames sometime before 9 o'clock last night. The factory has been gutted. The owners estimate they've lost around $100,000 worth of equipment. The facility has been a community hub running for 18 years where people would come and work on different projects. The group behind it doing what they could to help out those in need. Just last Friday, they raised thousands at an event for a struggling restaurant operator.
It was an amazing event for our friend's restaurant that went belly up. And so we had everybody that was involved in the place were all together. And it was cool. So if that's our lasting memory of the place, it's a pretty good one.
A Taekwondo centre at the front of the building was also damaged. More than 300 students train at the facility, from kids right through to world champions and Olympians. The owners hoping Olympic memorabilia hasn't been damaged.
Obviously heartbreaking seeing your business that you'd really worked so hard to build up, have a great relationship with our community, just literally burnt to the ground.
Firefighters couldn't say too much about how they think the fire started, other than that they can't rule out suspicious activity. They're hoping the police investigation can be more conclusive.
Overseas now, Donald Trump has returned to his home city, New York, to host a rally at Madison Square Garden. The packed stadium heard from speakers who have since been slammed as racist and vulgar. Rival Kamala Harris hit the pivotal swing state of Pennsylvania in the final sprint to Election Day. Here's US Bureau Chief David Woywood.
Well, this is certainly not Madison Square Garden. This is a sports stadium in the back blocks of Philadelphia, but it is arguably more important in this incredibly close election race. Vice President Harris here preaching to a few thousand.
There is too much on the line, and we must not wake up the day after the election and have any regrets about what we could have done in these next 9 days.
As her rival took the fight into the belly of the beast. Manhattan's iconic venue, Deep Blue Heartland, today a sea of red.
Fight, fight, fight. Fight for Trump.
This will be my third time voting for him, and they always say it, the third time's the charm. So let's get this, MAGA, baby.
The showman behind the audacious display of strength, a former New Yorker.
She's unfit for office. Everyone knows it. No one respects her. No one trusts her. No one takes her seriously. Everyone knows she is a very low IQ individual.
Brimming with confidence as his guest speakers went on the attack.
In fact, she is the devil, whoever screamed that out. She is the Antichrist.
It needs to be a landslide. We need to slaughter this other people.
The cartels are gone. The criminal migrants are gone. The gangs are gone. America is for Americans and Americans only.
As the first Samoan, Malaysian, low IQ, former California prosecutor ever to be elected president, it was just a groundswell of popular support. And anyone who thinks otherwise is just a freak or a criminal.
Approaching the final week now, pollsters are still unable to paint a clear picture of this race as America rides out the final days of a campaign unlike anything we've ever seen before.
Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers is resisting calls for new cost of living measures despite Labor's election defeat in Queensland. Live now to Josh Martin at Parliament House. Hi Josh. Backbenchers and union leaders want more help for people doing it tough.
Good afternoon, Beck. Yes, many are arguing the election result in the Sunshine State would have been a lot worse if not for outgoing Premier Stephen Miles and his budget measures, which included 50-cent bus fares, free school lunches, $1,000 energy bill relief and car rego discounts. Calls have been made for similar measures from the Prime Minister in a March budget ahead of a May federal election. But the Treasurer says while there might be extra assistance, it will be responsible with an emphasis on reducing debt, inflation and hopefully for him, interest rates. Federal opposition leader Peter Dutton is buoyed by the Queensland result. He's a Queenslander himself and he'll campaign strongly on housing and the cost of living.
It's swept out a bad Labor government and I hope that we can do that at a federal level as well, because if we do that, we can get our country back on track. Australians are paying the price for bad economic management under Anthony Albanese at the moment.
This election was never going to be, from our side, a free-for-all of public spending. It wasn't going to be before Saturday's outcome, and it's not going to be after Saturday's outcome. We are coming at this cost of living challenge from every conceivable and every responsible angle.
Beck, September quarter inflation figures are out on Wednesday, expected to show a 3-year low just above or just under 3%. But economists still expect interest rates to stay on hold when the Reserve Bank Board meets next month. Any cut in rates before May's election would be a godsend for the Albanese government.
OK, Josh Martin, we'll leave it there. Thank you. Organisers are promising the biggest and best Melbourne Cup carnival yet as preparations begin in earnest for the nation's most famous racing week. Bethan Yeoman joined the style set for the official launch.
The final touches are being placed here at the park where all punters can come to enjoy food, activities and entertainment throughout the 4 race days. The lineup this year includes US pop icon Anastasia, who will hit the stage on Saturday.
We can expect mayhem. No, we're not going to go mayhem. We're going to have a good time. We're going to play songs that people have fond memories of or breakup memories of.
Organisers say this is the biggest and best Melbourne racing carnival to date. There will be 200 performances throughout the week, a record prize pool of $370,000 for fashions on the field, and of course, lots of racing.
The bird cage is at another level again. We've got the park with an elevated fashions on the field,
We've got right through the precinct a whole range of new pop-up food and beverage providers.
It's the place to be, so it's so good to see the younger generation coming into our sport and enjoying it, and hopefully it's not just, you know, all the party, they actually do watch the races as well.
The Melbourne Cup Carnival is the biggest major event here in Victoria. Last year it generated more than $468 million for the economy, and almost 11% lift on the previous year.
Jane Bunn joins us now. And Jane, after a warm Sunday, we've begun the week just a little cooler.
We have, Mike. It is nearly 10 degrees cooler than it was at this time yesterday afternoon. The city began on 12 after that cooler air settled in overnight. Then it only warmed up to 17 this afternoon, despite all that sunshine out there. We did have showers at first, mainly over eastern suburbs. They cleared during the morning, but we're all below average this afternoon. It has only reached tops of 16 in the southeast. When you take the wind into account and how dry the air is, it feels even colder, occasionally dropping down into single digits. Laverton 16 feels like just 9. We had a cold front pass by overnight. That has put us into a cool southwesterly airflow. We need to wait for the next high pressure system, this one here, to pass through for it to warm up again. I'll show you when to expect that a little later. Mike and Beck.
OK, see you then. Thanks, Jane. Dodgy providers have been put on notice as the federal government launches an NDIS crackdown. That's coming up next.
Also, the blood test breakthrough that will change the way doctors diagnose Alzheimer's.
In it for the long haul, historic flight touches down in Australia from Texas.
And later, the brave mum boxing around the clock to beat rare cancers.
You're watching 7's Afternoon News. Please stay with us.
The federal government is cracking down on dodgy NDIS providers who hurt or injure participants. Hefty new maximum fines of $15 million are being proposed, plus new powers for the Commission to refer fraud to police sooner.
I want to make sure that for all the many great disability support workers, that the few shonks, charlatans and incompetent and negligent or dishonest people are driven out.
The opposition is welcoming the proposed crackdown, but is questioning why it's only being done now.
An affordable blood test could soon offer a breakthrough to people who suspect they have Alzheimer's. Karina Carvalho met the team that's trying to make it happen.
This simple test is set to revolutionise the detection of a disease which affects almost 300,000 Australians. Leading this research is Professor Christopher Rowe from the Florey, Australia's leading brain research institute. Professor Rowe, thank you so much for your time. Tell us, what does this blood test entail?
It's simple. It's just a simple blood test. You'll be able to go to your local pathology blood collection centre, hold out your arm and the blood will be taken.
And so how does that differ from how blood tests to diagnose Alzheimer's are done now?
The only one that's currently available is done in the United States and costs $1,500. We expect this new one, because it runs on fully automated commercial machinery, to only cost about $100.
So that's a huge cost differential. What about accuracy? Is it more accurate, this test?
It's over 90% accurate, and that's better than clinical diagnosis by a specialist and as good as diagnosis with an expensive PET scan that would cost you about $2,500.
What difference will this make for patients, particularly when it comes to, say, early diagnosis?
Once you have concerning symptoms, you will be able to go to your general practitioner, be assessed, have a few tests done, but also have this blood test done. And your general practitioner will be in a good position to tell you whether you're developing Alzheimer's disease or not and refer you to the appropriate specialist care faster, much faster than is currently the process.
And what's next in terms of the trials and the studies that you're doing?
We're currently trying it in general practitioners in Adelaide, Newcastle and Melbourne, just to confirm that they're comfortable with it, make sure they know the implications and can counsel their patients correctly.
And so potential patients should see their GP?
Not just yet. It's going to be a year or two before it's approved by regulatory authorities and there's a Medicare rebate for it. But it's coming. There's plenty of data showing this is an excellent test.
Okay, so still a little bit of time to wait for patients. But Christopher Rowe from the Florey, thank you.
Plane enthusiasts from around the world have spent the night online tracking a historic flight from the United States to Australia. Reporter Anna McGraw was in Brisbane this morning as passengers arrived after 16 hours in the air.
Good afternoon. Well, it's an historic day here at Brisbane's International Airport with the first ever American Airlines flight direct from Dallas, Texas, touching down bright and early this morning.
Flight AA7 hit the tarmac just before 5 o'clock with a total travel time of 16 hours.
American 7, Brisbane ground.
The landing was live streamed across the world with dozens watching in person at Brisbane Airport, making it one of the most tracked flights in the world.
How was that flight?
It was amazing. It was very nice, very smooth. Glad to be here.
The service, operated on the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, is now American Airlines' longest flight. It's also the longest direct flight to and from Brisbane's International Airport.
This is not only a match made in heaven. This is a match made at 30,000 feet above the Pacific.
The aircraft seats up to 244 people, but it's also a game changer for trade, able to transport up to 18 tonnes worth of freight. Right now, the service is seasonal and will run until March next year, but if it's popular enough, it could become permanent.
The afternoon sport is coming up after the break. We'll hear from the next star of the AFL.
Also, the new Roo, who might be small in stature but plans on making a big impact at Arden Street.
Also, the incredible Hail Mary, match winner in the NFL, creating a buzz.
And later, how to track your tech, the new gadgets keeping tabs on our belongings.
This is 7's Afternoon News. We're live from Docklands.
Abbey Gelmi is here with Sport Now. Abbey, a new Roo is ready to make an impact.
Well, Bet Caleb Daniel is settling into Arden Street after a rough year at the Western Bulldogs, where he was out of favour with the coaches. The 28-year-old says he wanted to play more senior footy and is excited about the young talent at North.
Last year didn't pan out my way, probably through form and sort of a lack of trust from sort of some of the coaching staff, and being able to come to a new club and have a fresh start and that's pretty special to me, I think.
He joins Jack Darling, Luke Parker and Jacob Constancy as the new recruits. Meanwhile, Brisbane Norm Smith medalist Will Ashcroft is helping prepare younger brother Levi before he enters the AFL as a potential #1 pick, joining the Lions as a father-son recruit.
Do you want to go #1?
Yeah, it's a dream, definitely. You obviously want to be the best player and recognised as that, but not the end of the world. I'm very pumped to be going to Brisbane.
The pair on hand at Hemisphere Management's Charity Golf Day at Royal Melbourne for Movember. Matilda's coach Tom Samani hopes to see a more lethal Mary Fowler in tomorrow's friendly against Germany. The 21-year-old was quiet in the draw against Switzerland, but the new boss plans to get her more involved against the world's 4th-ranked side.
And that's one of the things that we're looking at doing, is getting in a position where she's going to hurt the opposition a little bit more, and obviously trying to get her in a position where she gets more of the ball.
Germany thrashed the Matildas 3-0 at the Paris Olympics. In the Premier League, another setback for Ange Postecoglou, with Tottenham beaten 1-0 by Chris. Manchester United were left furious when VAR awarded a 92nd minute penalty to West Ham. The Hammers, well, they made the most of it to win 2-1. Lando Norris has narrowed the gap on Formula One title rival Max Verstappen to just 47 points at the Mexico Grand Prix. Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda collided on the first lap. Now, from second, Max Verstappen copped a 20-second time penalty for forcing Norris off the track and leaving it himself.
This guy is dangerous. I just have to avoid a crash.
Norris went on to finish second, while Verstappen had to settle for 6th. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz won from pole, while Oscar Piastri finished 8th. To the NFL, and with the game clock at 0 and down by 3, Washington had one last attempt at victory over Chicago.
Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line, and the ball is caught! Caught! It's a miracle! It's Noah Brown! Oh my goodness!
How good, the 61 yards or 55-metre Hail Mary, enough for the Commanders to snatch an 18-15 win. And we've seen some bad busts in the sporting world, and this statue of Miami Heat legend Dwayne Wade might just be added to the list. The man himself was left with a few questions.
Like, that's crazy. I can't believe that. Who is that guy?
It brings back memories. I don't know if you guys remember Cristiano Ronaldo's terrible statue, and there's actually a skit, if you haven't seen it, where they make a terrible one of David Beckham and he tries to keep a straight face.
How did you make David Beckham?
No,
look bad?
Well, that's the thing. I think he was like, I'll bulldoze it down, but if you haven't seen it, it's very funny.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks, Abs. We'll have more of the day's news coming up after the break, including an update on a murder investigation in Melbourne's north.
Also, bad news for homeowners hoping to see the end of land tax.
An emu causes a deadly smash near the Victorian South Australian border.
Why banks are allowed to keep customers in the dark over scams.
And a Hollywood star crashes his own lookalike contest.
We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Maddern.
Welcome back. Returning to our top story now, and a man is in custody this afternoon after a woman's body was found inside a northern suburbs home.
7 News has been told the suspect is the victim's partner. Relatives discovered her body this morning when they went to the South Morang property concerned for her welfare.
Do you think it's not going to happen to you, your sister, your brother, whatever, but yeah, I'm not going to see my sister again.
The 33-year-old accused man is being interviewed this afternoon. Charges are yet to be laid.
Victorians are set to be slugged with land tax for years to come as the opposition rules out being able to scrap the levy due to the state's rising debt. John Pasuto and his shadow treasurer say the tax will likely need to stay in place if they win office in 2026.
Would you get rid of that land tax?
We'll make our position on that. No, you've got to understand land tax at its base still constitutes a large part of our operating revenue.
So you can't get rid of the big ones?
You can't do anything in a short space of time.
Land tax is there's a lot of income from land tax. Now, the issue is we've got the highest debt in the country. We're paying $26 million in interest payments each and every day, more than $1 million an hour, just to service the debt that Labor has ratcheted up over the last 10 years.
The state's debt is expected to reach $188 billion by 2028.
A boy has been killed and his teenage sister is fighting for life after a collision caused by an emu near the Victorian South Australian border. Mitchell Sarioski has the story.
The children were travelling with their parents and 2 other siblings when tragedy struck on the Riddock Highway near Nangwarry. Behind the wheel of the Toyota Kluger was their father, Chris, the former head chef at Mount Gambier's Sorrento's Cafe. His 13-year-old daughter was also injured and will have to undergo surgery. Her brother, a 6-year-old, suffered bruising but is otherwise okay. The chaos began when a black sedan hit an emu around 2:40 yesterday afternoon. The family slammed the brakes to avoid a collision. Their 7-seater SUV was then struck by a ute from behind.
Very shocking, absolutely, definitely. They are very nice people. They are family orientated. The most concern is their family, first, second, third.
Look, I mean, anytime there's a horrific crash where someone's severely injured or loses their life, it breaks your heart, but when children are involved, it's just really difficult to comprehend the pain that our families are going through at the moment.
It's been revealed the family was already going through a rough patch. A friend who started a GoFundMe page says Chris was made redundant not that long ago, with his job going into receivership. She's hoping to help raise $15,000. The grief-stricken Mount Gambier community is this hour rallying around the family and each other. We'll have more in our main bulletin at 6.
The ACCC is under fire for keeping a veil of secrecy over bank scams. It has revealed that some banks are easier targets than others, but won't identify the best and worst at stopping scammers. Stephanie Tonkin is with us now from the Consumer Action Law Centre. G'day, Steph. The ACCC says it needs to do this so organisations keep volunteering information to the Anti-Scam Centre. Is that a valid reason?
Well, I think this is a question of transparency. I
believe that this relates to complaints made by members of the public to the ACCC about scams. Yes, it contains intel, but they're public complaints. That's not intel being gained from the banks themselves. But we do have a problem here around transparency of banks and what's going on in relation to scams, which comes into sharper focus when you understand that banks are reimbursing just 2 to 5% of scams losses in this country.
Just picking up on that, some banks have had no customer money lost to scams, while one bank has 3,000 affected customers. So in effect, it seems to be protecting the banks that aren't doing enough and penalising those who are.
Yes, I think if we can have a much more transparent system like they do in the UK, where every single bank is reporting on scammed losses and amounts and numbers, that's going to drive an incentive for banks to do better to protect their customers. And particularly the system we have here puts the onus, everything on the consumer. That's not going to change under the new laws. Consumers are bearing the burden of scams in this country. If we could have a system that puts the incentive back on the banks to do better, whether it's through transparency of information, definitely through reimbursing their customers when they're scammed, we're going to see the numbers of scams in this country and the harm caused reduce significantly.
This could be a great promotional vehicle for those banks that are successful in stopping scams.
What better competition than a race to the top in preventing scams for your own customers? So absolutely. Transparency allows consumers to choose, to make choices. It allows consumers to take care. If they're in the middle of a scam, they might be able to check quickly whether this is a known scam. So all that information is really important. But really, we should be putting the onus back on businesses to protect their customers.
Stephanie Tonkin from the Consumer Action Law Centre. Good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
A missing woman has been found after an exhaustive 6-day search in the Snowy Mountains. 48-year-old Lavissa Soberg was last seen driving a grey four-wheel drive on October 15 and was reported missing after failing to return the rental car. Emergency services began searching for her last Monday from the land and air.
New South Wales Police, ambulance and members from the National Parks and Wildlife Service and police found the woman dazed and injured. She advises that she was bitten by a snake approximately 4 days prior to being found and had also rolled her ankle and she was suffering from dehydration.
She was taken to Cooma Hospital in a stable condition.
Fans of Hollywood star Timothée Chalamet got more than they bargained for when they entered a lookalike competition in New York City. They were hoping to win a $50 prize, but were stunned to encounter Chalamet himself, the actor deciding to check out his doppelgangers firsthand. The competition was fierce, but a Willy Wonka-inspired entrant claimed top prize. A woman fronts court accused of assaulting Senator Lydia Thorpe. That is coming up next.
Also, what's happening to Victoria's economy, how our state compares to the rest of the nation.
And meet the mum who survived cancer and is now fighting to find a cure.
Stay with us here on 7's Afternoon News. A Preston woman has faced court accused of assaulting Senator Lydia Thorpe at the MCG after the Dreamtime game in May. 28-year-old Ebony Bell appeared via video link, charged with multiple counts of unlawful assault and recklessly causing injury. Police believe the pair knew each other before the alleged assault. Bell will return to court next month.
Victoria has slumped from 3rd to 4th in a ranking of state economies. The Commonwealth Bank's State of the States report found Victoria leads the nation in construction, but can't match WA in most categories. Here's Network Business Editor Amelia Brace.
Good afternoon. On a whole, CommSec has found that state and territory economies are being driven by a resilient job market and solid population growth, nowhere more so than Western Australia, topping the list for the first time in a decade. The resource-rich economy has produced the strongest job market in the country. Population is also booming out west. Its neighbour South Australia comes in second, though the previous nation leader is still ranked first on economic growth and dwelling stats. Queensland has made a significant leap from 5th to 3rd spot. There's a lot going right in the Sunshine State, particularly home lending. It's now the top spot in the nation with a remarkable near 40% rise in the value of home loans. Ironically, it's the huge value of home loans in New South Wales that's holding it back, with rate-sensitive residents being held back by higher borrowing costs, seeing the state slump on retail spending, equipment investment and dwelling starts. While in Victoria, a 13.5% increase on construction work helped the state lock in 4th position. CommSec says on a whole, high interest rates and inflation are putting pressure on consumers and slowing economic momentum.
19 people have died and 6 others have been injured in a bus crash in Mexico. A container filled with corn fell off a truck, causing the bus with 25 people on board to overturn and crash down a ravine. Rescue crews worked for hours to free those trapped in the wreckage.
Firefighters have taken 24 hours to control a blaze at a tissue paper factory in Pakistan. A short circuit sparked the fire, which reduced most of the building to rubble. While there were no reports of injuries, more than 1,000 workers will lose their livelihoods.
Thailand's king and queen have presided over a royal barge procession in Bangkok. The voyage along the river marked the king's 72nd birthday. 52 royal barges were rowed along the river by more than 2,000 oarsmen. As part of the tradition, the king gifted robes to Buddhist monks.
Now to a team that's rolling with the punches in a fight against underfunded cancers. They're staging a 24-hour challenge to raise awareness and money for much-needed research. Chantel Tui explains.
A powerful pair. A world-renowned oncologist and a cancer survivor, both determined to fight for better treatments for some of the deadliest cancers.
The 12-month survival rate for these cancers is shockingly low. Most people don't survive that 12 months.
Meg Croucher, a 40-year-old mum of 3 and survivor of a rare cancer, is about to take on a 24-hour non-stop boxing challenge. It's believed she is the first female to ever achieve this. She's raising money for Warp 9, a not-for-profit set up to help underfunded cancers like pancreatic, GI and stomach.
It's a challenge, but everyone that gets diagnosed with cancer faces a challenge and they don't get to choose that. I chose to do this.
It's a very long journey that requires a lot of endurance and a lot of stamina to get through it. So hence, I think Meg's idea to pound this bag for 24 hours is a great symbolism of, of support for patients having to endure all that.
Dr. Dean is fighting on the front line every day, treating patients and scouring the world for the best trials and research. But more needs to be done.
More young people are fighting these rare cancers than ever before, and the outcomes are dismal. And without money to fund new trials, more people will die.
Keep faith, keep hope, and keep fighting.
To donate, you can head to the Warp 9 website. Chantel Tui, 7 News.
They were once the domain of police and spies, but tracking devices have now gone mainstream. Next, the new tech that's keeping tabs on people's belongings.
And as we take a live look at our city, we'll have the latest on Melbourne's traffic and weather for you. If you're prone to losing your keys, phone or passport, there's a bigger range of high-tech solutions within reach. Sunrise tech editor Sean White has been reviewing the newest and smartest Bluetooth and GPS trackers.
Well, losing track of things is practically a modern-day sport for Aussies. But thanks to some clever devices, you can stay undefeated. On average, a person misplaces 9 items a day and spends about 15 minutes daily searching for them. Keys, phones and remotes are the most common items. But there's tech solutions, like Apple's Find My feature that lets you find the remote control using your iPhone. Or you could use a physical location tracker and attach it to your keys.
This is AirTag. The next time the couch eats your keys, AirTag will help find them.
From the Apple AirTag, TileMate and Laser Mini Smart Tag. some of the most popular Bluetooth options retailing for as little as $30. These were instrumental for many travellers losing their luggage post-COVID. At the IFA Smart Home Conference in Berlin, we saw the next chapter of innovation, which includes your passport. This new wallet from Saatchi that has integration with the Find My app. It can be tracked, put into lost mode and alert you if left behind. But one brand that's really stepping up their game, Chipolo, partnering with everyday brands to integrate its Bluetooth tracking tech directly into items like umbrellas and power tools, making it easier to locate them if they go missing. But one of the key tracking innovations relates to your kids, with a range of devices keeping tabs on their movements. Smartwatches like the Space Talk Adventurer 2 let parents view their current location and set safe zones so you know when they arrive or leave a certain location. Sean White, 7 News.
It was a mostly flat start to the week for local shares. James Tao from ING Bank has more.
Good afternoon. It was a fairly quiet start to the new week with the ASX 200 adding about 10 points or just over 0.1%. Investors are certainly on the sidelines at the moment ahead of some key inflation figures out midweek, and the inflation numbers will certainly play an important part in the RBA's interest rate policy decision making. So today we had the major sectors in terms of our banking and also mining stocks really moving against each other. Miners were generally high. We had Fortescue, Rio and BHP lifting around 1 to 2% each. In terms of the big four banks, they were mostly lower, led by ANZ and also CBA, which were down about 0.8% each. The worst performing stock on the top 200 today was a uranium miner, Paladin Energy, down about 15% on a quarterly update, which didn't quite meet the market's expectations. The Aussie dollar was also weaker today. It continues to fall on a stronger US dollar. It's buying 65.9 US cents.
James, thank you. Let's take a quick look at Melbourne's roads. Right.
Good afternoon, it's James in the Tasman Butchers traffic chopper, and it's an awful afternoon on Melbourne's roads with a serious crash in Clayton South. Westall Road is currently closed southbound between Fairbank Road and Heatherton Road. All commuters are diverting via Springvale Road or Clayton Road instead. Tasman Butchers source directly from local farmers and prepare their meat fresh in store every day. For the widest range of quality cuts at the best value, visit tasmanbutchers.com.au. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Well, festival goers in Belgium are getting into the spooky spirit, hosting their annual pumpkin pond race where people paddle out from inside giant hollowed-out vegetables. The race takes skill since the pumpkins don't really have a front or back, so paddlers need plenty of muscle to keep them steady and head into the right direction. We should have one of those.
Who hollowed those out?
Let's do it.
OK. Jane Bunn returns now. Jane, what can we expect tomorrow?
Well, Mike, today is one of the coolest days of this week, but it doesn't rise far from here. Showers crossed eastern suburbs at first, then the cloud quickly broke up to reveal lots of sunshine and has only reached 17 in the city. The band of showers was patchy as it crossed southern Victoria. Hardly any clouds spilled into the north with sunshine there. We are mild north of the divide and cool in parts of the south thanks to a southwesterly wind. A cold front rolled through overnight, bringing an end to our taste of warm weather. While the next high lingers back here over the Bight, we are on its cool side and it is not moving. It'll remain there all week. The next cold front arrives here on Thursday. Then that high can finally move through, which is good timing for next weekend. Watch the cool greens in the south and mild yellows in the north. They don't thaw very much as we go through tomorrow and Wednesday, except in the northwest on Wednesday. But that doesn't last. The next cool change blows through on Thursday for a chilly Friday. We are on the cooler side, but it doesn't bring much in terms of wet weather. Thursday's front only brings showers to the south, just like we saw today, that really don't add up to much. But once that front has moved through, the high can follow too. Look how much warmer it'll be by Saturday. Melbourne may even reach 30 degrees on Sunday, but it does depend on the timing of the cool change. You can see it creeping in through there. We'll have more on that in the news at 6. Around the nation, tomorrow there is a risk of a shower or thunderstorm in Brisbane, 29. Mild in Sydney and Canberra, a little warmer and in Hobart, a little warmer inland in Canberra. Adelaide, lovely as that high lingers nearby. But Perth, that has the heat. Our cooler winds here warm up as they cross around the other side of the high and flow down into the southwest. To Victoria, local morning fog, while areas of cloud return to the south thanks to those southwesterly winds. Just the odd shower that really doesn't add up to much. Sunny across the north, mild to warm, cool in the south, particularly under the cloud. In Melbourne, we're expecting a partly cloudy day. That's for the city and northwest, a top of about 19. It does look cloudier, though, across eastern suburbs and near the coast, where we can't rule out the odd shower. Very light, it won't add up to much at all. That's the latest. I'll have more at 6. Mike and Beck.
OK, thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Jane.
Coming up in 7 News at 6 with Peter Mitchell, machete madness as warring teens face off in Melbourne's southeast. How a gambling addict turned double killer did a deal to avoid a murder charge. Bike bandits strike twice in 24 hours, leaving a Carrum Downs business reeling. The 2-week transformation helping solve Victoria's housing crisis. And savvy shoppers put the best bargain brands to the test ahead of Christmas. It's all ahead at 7 News. Coming up with Peter Mitchell.
And that is all from Melbourne's afternoon news. Thank you very much for joining us today.
But for now, from the 7 News team, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.